Hey guys, Perla here. Welcome to my channel, Imperfectly Perfect. I know you guys just saw my other video. Yes, I'm wearing the same exact thing because they're just a few minutes apart. Uh, anyways, um, so as far as like my teen years go, um, sleep paralysis at that point was occurring, but it wasn't occurring as frequent. So it wasn't going as far as like multiple times a day or multiple times a week. It was probably like once a week, once every couple of weeks. What did start happening at the time was what I like to call, again, not a doctor, nothing like that. My nursing experience has nothing to do with narcolepsy because that is not what I was specializing in anyways. Um, but what I call like transfer of feelings into like my reality. So I would wake up and just wake up completely upset. I would wake up depressed. I would wake up angry. I would wake up extremely excited and happy. So like all of these emotions are going through me, and we decided. Well, I decided that there was something wrong. Oh my god! Now I have the hiccups. So I decided to talk about it in school and ended up being diagnosed with clinical depression. So of course, like with everything else that I do, I was diagnosed with it, and I was explained as to why. And I'm looking at them like at the psychiatrist, and I'm like, in my head, I'm looking to myself. I'm like, this is not what I have. And I remember looking to like a medical book or something in the library and reading about narcolepsy, and I was like, I remember it's so fucked up. I must have been like 14 or 15 or so, and I remember looking at it and reading. I'm like, screw, they're screwed, and just kept going. And throughout the years, like I've always read, like I always found articles and stuff of narcolepsy like pretty exciting, even though it really didn't get into the depth of things of like how I experienced them or whatever. But um, with my teen years, I was emotionally, I was like all over the place. I couldn't understand why. I mean, I don't consider myself to have had a bad childhood. I have mom, dad, I have my sisters, whatever. Um, Never one really without anything. Like, our basic needs were met. So I couldn't understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling. So, it got to a point where I was probably like, by the time I was 16, I had decided that clinical depression was not my issue, but that I was just gonna play along and pretend to be taking my meds and just deal with things the way I had been dealing with them, which is exactly what I did. I stopped taking my meds. I became suicidal when I was 16. Was the first time I ever thought about killing myself. Um, and it was just because I couldn't. I'm sorry. I couldn't deal with the fact that there was something wrong and that nobody could realize what it was. And that basically, I felt like I was being lied to when I was being told that I was just depressed. Even though I know that part of me was depressed, but I couldn't accept the fact that I was just depressed because of the chemical imbalance. And I'm not saying that that's not I'm not saying that it doesn't happen to other people, but I just felt like that it wasn't me. It wasn't what was going on with me. That was just my personal opinion. And especially when you're giving me medications that are supposed to help and they're not helping, they're actually bringing on more nightmares. I'm spending more time dreaming than anything else. I'm starting to feel more of that sleep paralysis coming on, more of that fear of sleeping coming on. And then we get to the point where, I backtrack back to like my religion and stuff. So I'm just like, nope, these people are going to think you're crazy and they're just going to, get you into a psych unit or something. So I just kind of like dealt with it. I was taken to DR for a couple of months, was medicated there. Don't really recall much of what happened. I just remember kind of being like a zombie. And I just kind of said I was just going to deal with it. I was like, if it's a chemical imbalance, at that age I started looking into stuff, and they were saying that, exercise help and this help and that help. Um, so I started just trying to figure out different ways to make myself happy, I guess. But obviously it didn't work because at that age I was still undiagnosed. Um, Again, as far as like family members one and stuff like that, I was the one cousin that couldn't hang. Um, I would go into the city to visit my cousins and stuff like that, and I would flat out just pass out. Like everybody would be up and stuff, and I was the first one down the road, sleeping and everything. Um, and it just kind of became part of who I was. I was not able to stay up late. Um, I was just, it was just very confusing times, I guess. You're going through everything. You're going through puberty. You're getting your period. You're doing this. You're doing that, and throughout it all, you just have this feeling of not belonging and not understanding why you are the way you are. So I've always been very organized, very this is how things have to be type of thing. So being completely different from everybody else in my family, I kind of felt like an outcast, and I just couldn't explain why I was the way I was. So there was a lot of just keeping to myself. And I mean, I would have these rages that really weren't cool. Like, I'm being completely honest with you. I would go to, because, and I honestly do believe that it was because I was so exhausted, and I wasn't realizing that that's what it was. You got up in the morning, you went to school, came back home, you changed your clothes, you cooked, you cleaned, you did your homework. By the time you were done, it was bedtime all over again. And this is what pretty much teenage years were for most of us Spanish girls, per se. It wasn't like these girls now, like, oh, we're gonna go to the mall. Psst. Girl, you better make sure that food in the house is clean before you go to the mall. But I'm being completely honest. So what I would do is I would go to the 99-cent store and buy purposely like glass wine, like glass, anything glass, cups, plates, whatever. And I would keep a stock in my room because, it was always like that thing, like, well, you didn't buy it, why are you throwing things and this and this and that? So I decided that I was going to start buying my own things that I would purposely break when I got so extremely angry. So then it get to a point where I went through this anger phase. I was just angry at the world. I would wake up angry and go to sleep angry. And the only thing that would allow me to release things was throwing and breaking things and crying and then going to sleep. And then I would wake up like feeling so much better. So that went on for a while. And cleaning, for whatever the reason, always helped me kind of like soothe. So whenever I'm doing anything that doesn't require me to think. So I would get up in the morning, like, especially like on Saturdays, that was like a big thing, like, blasting the little bachata and stuff, and, you start cleaning like at 6 in the morning. So it was always something that I looked forward into doing because I was just going and going and going and going, but I didn't have to process anything in my brain, if that makes any sense. But teenage years were rough. I mean, sometimes I wish I would have known back then that I had narcolepsy, because it would definitely explain a lot of my behaviors. Because like I said, it wasn't like I had this tremendous bad childhood or anything like that that would give you, a reason or a cause to react the way you're reacting. I was a spoiled brat. I remember for my Sweet 15, I wanted that Lincoln Navigator, whatever, limousine or whatever, limo or whatever. And a couple of weeks before, my father told me that he couldn't get it, that when he called, they were all out, and I was going to have to get a regular limo. And I mean, I was such a brat that I literally told his ass to cancel this shit because I not even say shit. I was like, cancel that limo because I do not want it. If I cannot have the Lincoln Navigator, blah 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 blah, that I want in this color, I do not want it. I'd rather walk my ass to the church. And like I think about it, and I'm like, yo, you were spoiled. Like, seriously. But I remember when the day came of the party. Yeah, I. It is his fault. It's my daddy's fault. I got my limo. He had just said it. I guess he was trying to test me or whatever. Like, she's humble in there somewhere. Nah, I was not humble at the time. I did get my limo, though. I was excited. I know. 15-year-old drama. But I think it was more, I think he started to spoil me more after I was diagnosed with depression, in a sense, because it wasn't something that we were used to. Depression was not something that we got or that we have or whatever. So I feel like part of it, my parents wanted to, they didn't want to finish breaking me, basically. So I got away with a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have gotten away with. My dad and I have always had an open relationship, as far as like I've been always able to tell him anything, and knowing that he's gonna be straightforward with me. Whereas with my mom, it's like, she's a very like by the book, old traditional person. Like, don't have sex till you get married. Don't do this. Don't do that. Like, why are you thinking like that? Why, like, she's the like a female in all her glory. Like, I remember being young and my mom, the makeup and the this and the that, and I'm just sitting here like, yo, all I want to wear is some sweats and a t-shirt to go to school. So there were, I had the sense of the masculine as like my father, and the feminine, my mom, and they each play their role to like their full extent. Mom was home. My mom did work on and off, but for the most part, I guess they tried for her to be home with us. And my dad would go out, and if he had to work 2 or 3 jobs, that's what he did. So I was kind of stuck like in an identity crisis, I guess, at the time. I liked the things that my mom did as far as like cleaning and cooking and blah blah, but I also liked the things that my dad did as far as like working and balancing the checkbook and doing this and doing that, and that, following all of those things and building things and creating things with his hands. So I kind of like always steered towards following my father, just because it was something that wasn't like what the norm was. I was tired of the cooking and the cleaning, and I still enjoy doing all those things, but I wanted to get, I wanted the hammer, then I wanted the screwdriver. I wanted to do all those little things that men did, because in my head I never wanted to be dependent like on a guy. Like, if I want to do this, I'm gonna do it. So that was pretty much my teenage years, on and off. I know, making no sense, right? Basically, my biggest thing with my teenage years, the sleep paralysis was still there, and I did have the transfer of emotions constantly. I would wake up and I just couldn't understand why I was feeling however I was feeling. I did start with, I think that's when my cataplexy first started, was my teenage years. Except for I was told that I was clumsy. So whenever I got really, really upset, I would start walking, my knees would kind of like give out on me, and I was constantly tripping like over myself. So I wasn't tripping on anything. It was just like literally like my knees would just kind of give. And it wasn't just my knees, it would be like my whole legs, but it was kind of like, I would say it was my knees giving out. So nobody really ever, I never really said anything to anybody. I honestly just thought I was clumsy or whatever. So that's it for my teenage years. And I would sleep a lot. When I used to go to Dominican Republic, I used to take a lot of naps. A lot. Especially like during the summer and stuff, I love taking naps. But yeah, that big depression stuff came in. Oh, that's when I started having issues at school. I started having concentrational issue, whatever the heck that word is in school. So whenever we had big testing to do and stuff like that, I used to dread them, and I would go into like a um, panic mode, because even though I knew the information, when it came time to take, like midterms and finals and stuff like that, I would do so poorly because I couldn't, my brain would just go blank. And so at that age, I remember, like, I would do that. I would answer a couple of questions and I would kind of like daydream and then come back to it. And unfortunately, a lot of the times I wouldn't be able to finish the testing because I would take my little breaks, which apparently is what I need. I didn't know that at the time, but it is like what I need or whatever. So yeah, I used to do a lot of that too. A lot of yeah. Oh, well, that's about it. Anyways, thank you for watching. Like always, I do apologize. My speech and my train of thought, oh my God, is usually all over the place. And I am extremely exhausted right now. I don't know why. Go ahead and look at my other video. Bye-bye.